8 years ago, I did something monumentally stupid. I quit my perfectly stable job with a pension and a coffee machine, moved to another country, and decided I'd make a living as a photographer. Armed with nothing but this D800, Nifty 50, and a 105 macro. That's it. My entire professional kit. But in my defense, I was in my late 20s and thought I could take on the world. I couldn't. But I've learned a few things along the way. Here are 8 lessons from 8 years of professional photography. Well, professional might be a stretch. Let's call it paid to make mistakes and then charged to fix them. Now, these lessons came mostly from portrait work. That's where I've spent most of the last 8 years, pointing cameras at people and hoping they don't blink. But here's the thing, the lessons apply to everything. Because all photography is portraiture. Landscape photography, portrait of a mountain. Architecture photography, portrait of a building. Street photography, portrait of strangers. Still life, portrait of an egg and a fork having an existential crisis. Point is, these 8 things work regardless of what you point your camera at. So, lesson 1. You learn more from your failures than your successes. I've got about 300,000 photos across these 3 cameras. And you know what's the percentage I would actually show to another human being? About 3%. The other 97? That's my real photography education. See, success teaches you that worked, which is useful, but vague. Failure teaches you exactly why it didn't work. Wrong light, wrong moment, wrong lens, wrong bloody idea to begin with. I've deleted more files than most people will ever take, and every single one of those files has taught me something. Okay, a slight hyperbole, but I did learn something. Usually that I should have checked my exposure before releasing the shutter, but still, lesson learned. Which brings me to lesson 2. Improve one single thing per shoot. Here's what doesn't work. Trying to fix everything at once. You'll stand there paralyzed, thinking about your subject, lighting, composition, focus, foreground, background, whether you left your kettle on. It's too much. So pick one thing. One. Screwed up hand placement on Wednesday? On Friday's shoot, your focus is solely on your model's hands. Nothing else matters. Sure, you screw up other things, but that's okay. You improve one marginal thing at a time until you wake up one day and you realize that you're moderately competent. Or you realize you're still terrible, but now you know you're terrible, which is different. But here's the thing about lesson 1 and 2, about failing constantly and fixing one thing at a time. You'll only do that if you actually care, which is technically lesson number 8, but I'm a photographer, not a mathematician, and this one's too important to leave out till the end of the video. Photograph what you love, not what gets likes, not what you think will book you clients, not what some YouTuber with a flat cap and checked shirt told you is trending. What you love. You know why I've shot with one lens for an entire year? Not because I'm disciplined. I'm not. I've quit my 365 days project after 107 days because of a minor disagreement about an Oyster card. I did it because I was genuinely fascinated by the constraint. Look, if you're not interested, you're gonna shoot 3 frames, get bored, go home and watch Netflix. But if you care, you're gonna take thousands of frames without even thinking about it. Find what you love, shoot that. Everything else is noise. Right, so you're failing productively, fixing one thing at a time, and shooting what you actually care about. Good start. Now, let's talk about volume, because here's what nobody tells you about professional photography. It's a numbers game. This Z6, 195,000 actuations. D800, 86,000 actuations. ZF, that's recording me right now, 36,000. That's 370,000 photos, and that's just between these three cameras. It doesn't count the ones that I've owned, sold, or lost in questionable circumstances. 317,000 frames over 8 years. That's nearly 40,000 photos a year. Over 100 photos a day. Every day. For 8 years. And you know what? I'm still rubbish. But I'm measurably less rubbish than I was 300,000 photos ago. There's no shortcut for this. You can't watch a YouTube video and just get it. You have to put in the work. Think of it like this. Every photo is a data point. Your brain is building a pattern recognition system, but it needs data. You can't build that system with 500 photos, or even 5,000. You need tens of thousands of opportunities to fail, to learn, to see what works and what doesn't. So shoot. A lot. Most of it will be terrible, but that's the point. And when you're shooting that much, you need gear that works, which is lesson number 4. Gear matters, but not in the way you think. This camera is 12 years old. It's not the sharpest, it's not the fastest, it's not the lightest, definitely not the newest, but it never let me down, and that's what matters. See, YouTube will tell you that gear doesn't matter, and it's partially true. You don't need the latest and greatest 4K worth of mirrorless camera to take good photos, but gear matters, just in other ways. It matters for reliability. When you're getting paid to shoot, you can't have your camera failing on you. It matters for inspiration. The camera that makes you want to go out and take photos is worth much more than the one that stays in your bag. And it matters for speed. Not the autofocus speed, but the speed at which you can operate it. Muscle memory, knowing where every and each button is without even thinking about it. That's why pros stick with Canon or Nikon or whatever system they settled for. Not because it's latest and greatest, but because they know it's reliable and they know it inside out. The best camera isn't the one with the highest megapixel count. It's the one you trust. It's the one that keeps ticking even after 200,000 actuations. So, you're failing productively. You're shooting constantly. You've got reliable gear. Now what? Well, at some point, you have to do something with all those files, which brings us to the final 3 lessons. These are about what actually shows up in your work, what people see when they look at your portfolio, your website, your Instagram feed full of photos your mom pretended to like. Lesson 5. Editing is king. And I don't mean Lightroom or Photoshop. I mean curation. Here's an exercise. Go online and try to book a photographer. Doesn't matter, wedding, commercial, portrait, just try to find few. A bit of an identity crisis, isn't it? Half of them show both color and black and white, wedding and street photography, landscapes and portraits, moody and bright. You know what that tells potential clients? I don't know what I'm doing. Your portfolio should tell one story, one style, one vision. Not because you cannot shoot other things, but because people need to know what they are paying for. Pick a lane. Color or black and white. Moody or bright. Documentary or constructed. Pick one. You see, every photo should look like it came from the same photographer. Same eye, same sensibility. That's editing. Ruthless, painful editing. But showing 10 photos that look cohesive beats showing 100 photos that look like 5 different people shot them. Lesson 6 is going to annoy some of you. Subject trumps everything. You see, subject is more important than your sharpness, than your composition, than your camera technique. It's even more important than light. Yes, really. You can have perfect light, perfect composition, tack sharp focus at f1.2. And if your subject is boring, your photo's boring. I've seen technically flawless photos that I forgot about immediately. And then I've seen technically wrong photos, soft focus, blown highlights, questionable framing, that I remember forever. You see, a tack sharp photo of a brick wall is just masonry. A soft, grainy photo of your grandmother laughing, that's a memory. Nobody cries at a funeral holding a test chart. You know why? Because the person in the photo was interesting. There was a moment, an emotion, a connection. Personal skills matter more than technical skills. Making your subject comfortable, reading their energy, knowing when to press the shutter and when to wait. That's the difference between a photographer and a camera operator. And speaking of technical obsessions, lesson 7. Bokeh doesn't fix compositional issues. Here's a trap every photographer falls into. You take a shot, something's wrong. Cluttered background, awkward placement, weird framing. What do? You open up to f1.2 and blur the hell out of it. Problem solved, right? A blurred lamppost sticking out of someone's head is still a lamppost sticking out of someone's head. It's just blurrier, Bokeh lamppost sticking out of the skull like a botanical mistake. Shallow depth of field does not resolve compositional issues. It actually can reveal them even more. That messy background? Still messy, just out of focus now. The awkward framing? Still awkward. You know what fixes compositional issues? Better composition. Move, change your angle, wait for better moment. Think about what's in the frame, what's not in the frame, instead of relying on your lens to do the thinking for you. Bokeh is a tool, not a crutch. So, 8 lessons, 8 years, 317,000 frames later. And here's what nobody wants to hear. There are no secrets. Every photography tips video on YouTube is telling you things that you already know deep down inside, but don't want to accept. Want to get better? Shoot more, fail more, care more. That's it. But that doesn't make a good thumbnail, does it? People want the diet pill, that one weird trick, the one camera that will fix everything. And I get it. I bought that camera multiple times. But you know what actually worked? This, for 8 years, 317,000 frames. Not because it's special, because I just kept pressing the shutter. So, here's the real secret. There isn't one. So go, take some photos. Yeah, they'll probably be rubbish. But that's fine, that's the point. Mine still are. But yours will be marginally less rubbish than last time. And that's how it works.